Okay, now we are going to look at the definition of the contract. As the recap session, you can see previously that a contract is an agreement between the parties, and then we have to look at whether the parties in the construction contract having the capacity that is referring to the sound mind, and then they must be 18 years old. Okay, and then in the form demanded by the law, this is like recognized by the state or recognized by the law to perform on one side or both. Make sure that the consideration is not impossible, the activity is not illegal, that will create an obligation that are enforceable in the court of the law or recognized by the state. This is one of the reference for the contract definition that you have learned before. Then if you refer to Sir William Anson, one of the author for the law books, a contract is mean a legally binding agreement. Let's say you would like to simplify the definition of the contract. It means legally binding agreement made between two or more parties, where every one of the parties forming a contract must understand that they have the right, they have the liabilities, they have the responsibility that they have to carry out. Okay, and then by one or more to act or forbearance on the parts of the other or to the others, that means between the constructing parties or between the construction parties in the respect of the building contract or between the contractor parties. Now, if you refer back to the elements of the contract that we have learned before, these are few or basic elements of the contract that you have to understand. If you understand that this concept these are the diagram showing the elements to form a valid contract, this is also applicable when you would like to adapt the knowledge of valid contract in the construction industry. But the difference is, for the construction industry, we have the standard term and condition that we have to refer. We call that one as standard form of contract. Okay, but basically, in order to form a valid contract, you still have to fulfill the valid offer, the acceptance, the capacity, intention, agreement, and consideration. Okay, the only difference is where you have to understand the term offer and acceptance in different way, in understanding also the word tender, because basically the offer is carried out by the contractor by fulfillment of the requirement in the tender. You can see the word tender again when you learn about the professional practice, but basically the word tender means the client may put the advertisement who would like to be the contractor for the project. Okay, so that is actually the tender advertisement. Actually, the tender advertisement also aim to find the suitable contractor. So in the construction contract, who actually offer to construct? Who actually giving the offer? The person who giving the offer is the contractor. Okay, and then the person who will accept any of the offer given is the client. So that is why it is not like what you see from the diagram where the client is appointing the contractor. No, okay, because at the first place, when the client offer, when the client put the advertisement of the tender, a lot of contractors who are interested to join or to be the contractor for that client will offer different amount of price. Okay, for example, contractor A, they will say, okay, I can construct your house for 500,000. Contractor B mentioned that I can construct for 550,000, depending on their budget and depending on their scale of the capacity. Or maybe contractor C mentioned, okay, I can construct your house with that design for 450K. So these are three different offers given by the contractor. Example, okay, that means it's up to the client to accept any of the offer made by the contractor. That is the understanding that you have to put in your mind when we talk about the relationship between contractor and the client in the real construction practice. Then we will look at what are the conditions, what are the terms, and then definitely when you have this, the proper way of writing, that is already the proof to show intention between the parties to form a valid contract, because basically for the construction contract, it is made in written. Okay, and then of course, in terms of capacity, we have to make sure that the person enter the contract is between the company and the company, and then the source, the consideration itself, that means the construction project itself must be done with the proper or lawful consideration. Now, if we refer back to the definition of the building contract, it is made by an offer by one party to do something in return for consideration. For example, if I go back to the principle that I did mention to you before, the offer is made by the contractor in return for the consideration. Here means in return for the payment. So the payment is being carried out by the client, maybe by progress or maybe according to the term and condition that have been agreed. And the subsequent acceptance of that offer by the second party. Okay, so this is the overview of how the construction contract is, or the building contract is. Now, when we mention about the construction contract, we also must keep in our mind that the construction contract have been produced to suit the procurement method. That means the procurement method also referring to the way the work or the contract is being conducted or being carried out. Okay, and then normally when we talk about construction contract, we always think about the risk. We always look at the reward and responsibility. What is the meaning of the risk? The risks are the list of the possible problematic or missing part that arise from the judging responsibility, or any risk that can be evaluated before the actual construction activity had been carried out. And then when we talk about the construction contract, it also considered as the risk by both parties, the risk for the contractor to carry out the work that is maybe some of the activity are not considered as very clear, something that is below the ground. So the contractor actually taking the risk to carry out the work. And then we also mentioned about the risk when we talk about the construction project, where the client actually appoint the contractor with the risk, because maybe the client may not have any experience working with the contractor, but they only have evaluated the contractor's background according to what profile that had been submitted to the client before. So it is about the risk of payment, the risk of construction, the risk because they need to deal with huge and a lot of materials, a lot of people, a lot of money. Number two, when we talk about construction contract, reward is always referring to the payment. That is the consideration in return with the works that need to be carried out by the contractor, how the payment is paid to the contractor by the client. This is normally referring to the progressive payment, where for the commercial project, normally the duration of the project is identified by month. Let's say the project is 12 months. Okay, I put here 12 months. So for the first month, the client will normally identify how many percent the work that have been completed by the contractor. The contractor also has to evaluate the percentage of the work done, because the contractor has to submit the claim to the client. The payment for the commercial project is normally done based by the basis of the progressive work. That means you can see that you can see the progress of the work, then only you have been paid. Okay, so the next one, construction contract also deal with the huge explanation of the obligation between the parties, responsibility between the construction parties, okay, between the professional member and also between the whole parties involved. How design and how coordination or management is placed between the construction project, right? Now, if we refer to the actual definition of the building contract, they are varies. So basically, if you refer to different people, they may have different perspective, but maybe the characteristics are similar. There is no one clear and definite definition of what construction contract is, but it's still depending on the features that you have to understand. As what I did mention, responsibility, it involves machineries, it's a lot of capital, it involves a lot of money, it involves a lot of materials and so on. Okay, but understanding the construction contract features, obligation, the rights, and the parties involved are very important because the main purpose is for the employer to get the contractor service at the correct amount and at the suitable amount, okay, for the construction of a project in consideration for the employer's payment. Okay, that means once you identify that this party has the contract to a relationship, contractor has their own obligation to construct. In consideration with that, the client also has their own obligation to carry out. That means by payment. So both promiser and promisee, offerer and offeree has their own obligation that need to be carried out. Another way to explain the construction contract, it is actually means an agreement with a person for any of the following. For example, when they carry out the construction operation, or we also referring this one to any construction activities according to the stages of the building construction, or maybe infrastructure construction, arranging for the carrying out of the construction operation by the other, whether under subcon or maybe under the contractor itself. Okay, and also when we talk about construction contract, we also relate this information or this contract with providing the labor, okay, or the labor for the others. This is maybe when the contractor subcon the work to another subcontractor for carry out the operation of the construction or to carry out the construction activities. This is also one of the reference made for explanation on the construction contract. Okay, and reference in this part to construction contract normally referring to architectural work, structural work, designing, and also the surveying work. And of course, the other one is actual construction activities to provide advice on the building, engineering, interior, exterior, including the management. Okay, laying out the landscape in relation to the construction operation, and also including the monitoring and controlling the whole construction process, the whole development process as well. Now, if we refer to one of the other definition of the building contract, it is an entire contract for the sale of the goods and the work, and also the labor for a lump sum price. Every time you see the word lump sum price, we always refer the word lump sum price to the word contract value. So the word contract value also or contract sum had been stated in the standard form of contract we use in Malaysia and also international standard form of contract. It is payable by installment. As what I told you before, the word payable by installment means by interim, okay, interim or by progressive, as the goods are delivered and as the work is done. It means how many percent work done, the payment is being made. How many percent work now for the next month, then another payment is being made according to monthly progress. Okay, this is one of the other reference as well. Then when we talk about another perspective on what contract management is, we also referring the contract management, contract to a relationship or building contract as the contract administration, where it also referring to the administrative process in handling the contract of the building or the contract of the construction project. Okay, why we talk about construction project? Because it is not necessarily building like MRT. It is a combination of infrastructure and building, or maybe infrastructure only, or maybe building only. In building contract management, the application of standard form of contract is essential. We are going to look at the detailed type of standard form of contract in our next topic, lecture number 18. This is one of the essential issue, the type of the form that you have to refer to avoid the issues related to the construction contract. They have clauses by clauses mention about the role or obligation, the right, and the procedure, what needs to be done during the possession of the site, what needs to be done if there are variations. So there are a lot of issues available in the standard form of contract available. Okay, so now let's go to the second part. This is the identification or explaining the term in the contractual relationship, not only for the construction industry, but also as the general information about express and implied term. The express term is considered as the term which are written into a contract. Okay, what you can see, what have been written properly or expressly verbally mentioned by the contractual parties, this is considered as express term. What is implied term? It is the term that is not expressly decided, but it is the perspective where you read into the agreement. Okay, where we also referring to maybe something that is not being stated, but it is available in the statute, or it is not mentioned by the parties at the time they made the contract, so long as they were in the minds of the both parties, as long as they are able to show that they are mutual agreement between the parties, this is considered as the term. Okay, and then when we mention about the term, a clear stipulation in the contract or clear interpretation of the word used in the contract which the party intend should be binding upon them. This is normally referring to the root of the contents or the consideration of the contract itself. So basically, traditionally, the common law has divided the term into the category of number one, we have condition, and number two, we have warranty. Okay, so these two, you can see this one normally when you buy something from maybe electrical shop, where you can see how long the warranty for this material. Okay, and then once you buy, is there any term and condition for you to fulfill in order to claim? So this word must be familiarized not only for the construction project but also in your daily life. So what is the meaning of condition? Normally you can see the word T and C apply, term and condition apply. So what is the implication when you see the word condition when you buy something or when you have the contract? When you buy something, actually you are making a contract. Okay, so when you are bonded with something, you have to understand what is the meaning of condition. The word condition are referring to the term that is go to the root of the contract. Okay, and if the condition had been breached, if the condition had been breached, the remedy for the breach of the condition is the repudiation or rescission of the contract, and damages are allowed. What does it mean? If the condition of the contract had been breached, there are two implications. Number one, the injured party may repudiate the contract, may cancel the contract. At the same time, he is allowed to claim for damages. That is the implication when you understand that one of the party has breached the condition. Now, a condition is a contractual term. If breach gives the injured party the right to repudiate, also referring to the word rescind the contract. He can affirm instead of rescinding. Okay, rescinding, or he can also claim damages. What does it mean? That means, let's say you are the injured party, you would like to affirm. That means you would like to make sure that the other party perform the contract. So you can either affirm and claim damages. Or another option, you can rescind and claim damages. So what does it mean? It also means that either you would like to continue or either you would like to rescind. These two scenarios allow the injured party to claim for damages, monetary compensation. Okay, what about the word warranty? Warranty is a minor term of the contract for breach of the contract. The injured party only has the right for the damages, but not having the right to cancel the further performance of the contract. Okay, not having the right to terminate the further performance of the contract. And how you want to know whether the term is considered as warranty or considered as the term, it is normally depends on the intention by the parties. If the intention or the condition have been clearly stated, that means it goes to the root of the contract. But then if that one is clearly stated, this is warranty, this is the condition, that one is easily identified. If let's say it is not clearly mentioned whether this is warranty or this is condition, it is really depending on the root cause of the content. Now that are the information if you refer to the express term. Let's go to the implied term. It is the term which, although not expressly stated by the parties by words or maybe by conduct, they are law deemed to be part of the contract. Okay, one of the example for the term and condition is under customary law, is under the statute, and under the previous court cases in terms of the judicial decision made. So you are actually bonded. If let's say you do this mistake, if we bring the matter to the court, this is how the judgment should be. And when we talk about statute, that means if you're referring to any of the law regarding to, for example, Customer Service Act, let's say you buy something and then you know that the quality is not as what it's supposed to get, it's not as what have been stated in the specification. If you are not be able to claim under contract, you may claim under the possible statute that are available. Statute means whether the act, you have the ordinance, or whether you have the enactment. It is not being clearly stated at the time the contract is formed. When you buy something, you may not see, oh, there are act, they are enactment, they are ordinance, but then that is available for that particular scenario. So that is the reference of the implied term that we have to understand as well. The court will, where it becomes necessary, imply into the building and engineering contract as a number of implied term. Let's say there are certain information that are not consistent or not clearly stated in the construction contract. We have to go back to the statute that we have in forming a valid contract, that is Contract Act 1950. Okay, in signing the contract for the construction project, yes, we did not have the reference of Contract Act 1950, but then because that is one of the statutes that we have to refer in forming a valid contract, that is considered as the implied term, even though it is not stated when you sign the contract. Okay, although the implied term is one which the party probably never contemplated when making the contract, the court justified this by saying that the implication is necessary. So the implication is similar to make sure that what had been formed when you have the valid contractual relationship with one of the people, it should be bonded with the consistency of the content in the previous or the statute that you have to refer. Right. Now, another implied terms which have to evolve from decided cases often referred to the precedent for the future event. Precedents mean what are the future judicial decision that is made if you are having the similar court cases like previous case. Okay, so we have to refer to the previous court cases if, let's say, you're faced with this kind of scenario. The court will generally imply into a building contract the following term. For example, the contractor will begin possession of the site within reasonable time. I'll give you one example. Let's say it is agreed between the client and the contractor that the construction has to be started at 1st of July. Okay, so before 1st of July, 1st of July is where the work can be started. But of course, in order to start with the construction project, you cannot simply start because you need to prepare the time to put in the site cabin, you have to put in the material on site, you have to order the machineries, you have to make sure that the machineries reach the construction area before 1st of July, for example. So this is the meaning of reasonable time, even though it is not stated in the building contract, but impliedly the contractor shall be given with the possession of the site from the client. Because let's say you would like to start with the construction project, the land is actually belong to the client. So you have to give the possession of the site, that means the ownership of the site, for the contractor to handle the whole area so that the construction activity can be started. Okay, so if I continue with this statement, should nothing be stated in the contract document? Should nothing means in case this information is not being stated in the contract document. Number 2, for example, the employer will not unreasonably prevent the contractor from completing the work. Okay, one of the simple example for not preventing is like, let's say the construction has to be started on 1st of July, where the drawing shall be completed before that. Let's say you would like to start, but the drawing has some changes and so on. So actually the delay of the work by the contractor may be affected by the action that is not reasonably taken by the client. Another example is the contractor will carry out the work in workmanlike manner as what had been clearly stated in the specification. So the work and the output also must be carried out as per specification. Now, before I go for the detail on the contract for the professional services, I would like to go through a little bit on the brief procurement method. Okay, let's look at the procurement method between these two. Okay, this is the briefing for you to know at least when we deal with the contract, you have to understand basically we have these two procurement method. Number one, on the left hand side, this is traditional project delivery. On the right hand side, this is design and build project delivery. What shows the difference between these two? Okay, I go to the first one on the left. This is very traditional and common ways of conducting or having the contract, where the owner or the client will have the separate contractual relationship between the designer, and the owner or the client also will have another separate contractual relationship with the contractor. Okay, can you see that? This is one. If I highlight, this is considered as one. Okay, and then we have another one, contractual relationship with the client and the contractor. Now, the difference between the design and build means the owner or the client will appoint the one entity main contractor, where the design has to be completed also by the contractor. That is why they call this one as design and build entity, because you can see here the design and build entity or design and build contractor has to appoint their own group of professional, group of consultant. That means the contractor has to appoint QS, engineer, the architect, and so on. And then at the same time, he also act as the contractor for that particular project. That is why we call this one as design and build. Okay, so the design is only be able to be carried out once the contractor have been appointed. Okay, on the left hand side, the design must be completed first before the contractor is being appointed. Why? Because once the contractor have been appointed, the contractor will start the construction work straight away at the site, at the construction site. Okay, so with that, this is the brief procurement method that you have to understand as the briefing, because it will affect the way you understand how the obligation and how the contractual parties risk, the right obligation and the right liabilities have been carried out between the parties involved.